Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda were inseparable during Easy Rider, but after a bitter falling out, Hopper barred Fonda from attending his funeral. Loyal to the end, Fonda went anyway, only to receive a chilling surprise. Dennis Hopper didn't just play a counterculture rebel in the iconic 1960s flick Easy Rider, he lived a shockingly rough and risky life. He skyrocketed to fame in the anything goes era of free love, but he ended up taking the whole no boundaries thing way too far. With 5 failed marriages, substance-fueled parties, and intense on-set showdowns, Hopper's life was legendarily debauched, and it all came at a huge price. As the son of a post office manager, Hopper may have had humble beginnings, but they weren't angelic. He was born in Dodge City, Kansas, a former Old West town once known for its bordellos, saloons, and gambling dens. These outlaw vibes might have seeped into the young Hopper's consciousness, because his troubles started at an early age. By his late teens, Hopper knew that he wanted to be an actor, and he had the guts to go for it. In fact, his fearlessness and ingenuity helped him stand out from the crowd at an audition for a TV show called Medic. As soon as he set foot in the casting director's office, he made an unforgettable move. Right in the middle of chatting with the casting director, Hopper suddenly collapsed to the floor as if he was having a seizure. Only, he wasn't. His performance was so convincing that just as the casting director was reaching for the phone to get help, Hopper bounced to his feet. The casting director put his head out the door and told the crowd of hopefuls that they could all go home. Hopper's next acting job was a small role in the legendary James Dean movie Rebel Without a Cause. Because the female lead hadn't been cast yet, and because the director Nicholas Ray didn't want to bother James Dean, it was Hopper who got to screen test with some of Hollywood's hottest young starlets. One in particular sent sparks flying. In the 1950s, a woman didn't usually make the first move, unless her name was Natalie Wood. The day after the pair screen tested, the 16-year-old gave Hopper a call. She got right to the point and told him that she thought he was good looking and would like to sleep with him. Aww. Hopper's promising career started to unravel just as it was getting off the ground. Following his work with James Dean, Hopper starred in the film From Hell to Texas, where he clashed fiercely with director Henry Hathaway. At one point, Hopper insisted on reshooting a scene more than 80 times before he actually did it the way the director wanted. By the end of filming, Hopper had also tried to leave the film 3 times. Unfortunately, he was also causing big trouble behind the scenes. On the set of From Hell to Texas, Hopper's devil-may-care attitude led him into treacherous territory. He started an affair with Diane Varsi, his married co-star. One day, while canoodling with Varsi, her husband stormed in on them, erupted in a fury, and attacked Hopper with a chair. Hopper, possibly undressed, tried to defend himself but ended up covered in bruises. At the tail end of this troubled time on set, Hopper's director walked over to him and said, "Kid, there's one thing I can promise you. You'll never work in this town again." Hopper was always full of surprises, and his next move was no exception. Although settling down seemed to not be in his vocabulary, all that went out the window when he met actress Brooke Hayward while the pair were working on Broadway. She was a classy former debutante who was also childhood friends with Jane Fonda. He was a bad boy from Kansas, but the unlikely pair shared a bohemian, artsy outlook. After only a few months, they decided to make it official. Hopper's horrible reputation preceded him, and Brooke's father Leyland, a showbiz bigwig, was furious at their pending nuptials. The lovebirds hastily wed, without even a planned reception. Dennis Hopper seemed like the last person who should marry, especially at the dawn of the swinging 60s. Even after having a child with Hayward, his bad boy behaviour couldn't be tamed. Case in point, one night after Hayward tucked in the kids, she settled into bed with a book. Then Hopper appeared at their door with Jane Fonda and her husband, Roger Vadim, and he wanted them all to take part in some group activity. Hayward was furious, and she screamed at them all to get out. Hopper's Hollywood Hills home with Hayward was seen by many as the substance-fueled beating heart of Los Angeles' counterculture scene. The swinging 60s literally unfolded in their living room, with gatherings of bikers, Black Panthers, artists, rock stars, and writers happening on the regular. This artistic upheaval and social chaos became the perfect breeding ground for what would be Hopper's career-defining project. The mornings after of Hopper's raucous parties were a sight to behold, and they were often beheld by children. At one point, Hopper's 5-year-old daughter woke up to a group of Hell's Angels scattered across 20 sleeping bags in the living room. Not only was Hopper partaking in mind-bending substances, but he was also drinking so much that his stepson said he reeked of booze morning and night. It's said that hippies are supposed to embody peace and love. Well, someone forgot to tell Dennis Hopper. He began hitting his wife and took to carrying a revolver around at all times. Indeed, by now he had developed an interest in heavy artillery that bordered on obsession, and his stepson admitted he spent a lot of his childhood hiding in closets. While all this was going on, Hopper was working on what would become his magnum opus, the countercultural film Easy Rider.
You're stoned out of your mind, man. Oh yeah, man, it ain't like I'm stoned, you know, man?
Pushed out of Hollywood for his intractable behaviour, Hopper had begun to work with actor Peter Fonda and writer Terry Southern to develop the film independent of the rigid studio system. It would eventually pay off tenfold, but its production was horrendous.
And it flashed 3 times at me and zigzagged and whizzed off.
Before filming on Easy Rider even started, Hopper was already causing trouble. Initially, Rip Torn had been cast in the movie as George Hansen, but after an incensed Hopper reportedly pulled a blade on him in a pre-production meeting, Torn walked off the project. To be fair, this ended up working out, as a then unknown Jack Nicholson took over the role. Though that hardly calmed things down once the film got rolling. When it came to embracing the film's counterculture spirit, Hopper and his co-stars Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson went all in during filming. Many of the substance scenes were 100% authentic, with the actors really living their rebellious actions on screen. This often led to wild fights on set, particularly between Fonda and Hopper. The film became a massive success upon its release, turning Hopper into the OG indie darling. As the turbulent 60s came to a close, so did Hopper's marriage to Hayward. He came home one evening and, in front of the children, threatened to end Hayward's life if she didn't feed him. At the end of her rope, she scooped up her kids, fled the house, and immediately got a restraining order and filed for divorce. It was only a matter of months after his divorce that he remarried, this time to Michelle Phillips of the folk rock group The Mamas and the Papas. Hopper had indulged in so many mind-altering substances on his wedding night that the next morning he didn't even recognise his new wife. Their union was over in just 8 days. Thanks to Easy Rider's success, Hopper got to direct The Last Movie, a $1 million passion project that almost lived up to its name due to its disastrous production. Filmed in Peru, where there were plenty of substances to go around, the shoot quickly went off the rails. In an ill-advised attempt to capitalise on this cinematic new wave, documentary filmmakers captured Hopper's substance-fueled creative process during the last movie. Titled The American Dreamer, the film highlighted his continuing unhealthy obsession with weaponry and showed him frolicking in the buff. But Hopper's life was now more than just pleasure-seeking. He also apparently had a death wish. In 1983, he proved that he was more unhinged than any character he played with the Russian dynamite death chair stunt. Passed down from drifters to old stuntmen and finally to Hopper, the idea is exactly what it sounds like. Blow up dynamite while sitting on it. Of course, it would have been a challenge to attract an audience to a potentially lethal event, so Hopper publicised it as a movie screening, and then loaded the crowd onto school buses and took them to a racetrack.
We're getting ready.
Amazingly, he survived, and someone even captured the stunt on film. In 1983, the same year as his little dynamite trick, Hopper was supposed to act in The Jungle Warriors, but the studio fired him for a bizarre reason. Early in the shoot, Hopper was found wandering in a Mexican village near the filming location while wearing absolutely nothing. He later admitted he was so far gone at the time, he didn't remember being detained by officers or fired from the film. It was clearly a cry for help, but on his voyage home, the cry turned into a scream. After Hopper's firing, the Jungle Warrior producers put him on a plane headed for home, and then probably let out a massive sigh of relief. The sentiment was premature. During the flight, Hopper tried to climb out onto the wing of the plane. At the end of this latest saga, Hopper claimed that it was actually the substances people gave him to come down that ended up causing his erratic behaviour on the plane, specifically insisting the medicine gave him temporary Parkinson's disease. Nonetheless, it was rock bottom, and he gave up drinking in 1983.
Who are you? Why did you say who are you?
Because I haven't learned my lines.
I know you've had it for 5.
He had 2 more short-lived marriages with actresses Daria Halprin and Catherine Lanassa, having 1 child with each. Then, in 1996, when he married Victoria Duffy, it looked like it might last forever. For over a decade, Hopper and Duffy lived their version of domestic bliss, having a daughter together in 2003. Then the fairy tale came to a devastating end. In 2009, Hopper faced a grim diagnosis. He had prostate cancer, and it quickly spread to his bones. By the next year, Hopper weighed a mere 100 pounds, struggled to speak, and chemotherapy was out of the question because he was too frail.
Man, I saw something, man, but I didn't see it working here, you know what I mean?
By 2010, Hopper was pretty sure he had weeks to live, and one of his last actions was shocking.
I got myself a suit right there. I got a wing dinger. I was married in that suit.
He fought to cap his wife's inheritance, ban her from contesting his will, and even tried to kick her out of their beach house. Victoria Duffy had now been his wife of 14 years, but according to the ailing actor, his wife had exhibited outrageous conduct. He also called her insane, inhuman, and volatile. Eventually, their relationship became so explosive that Hopper filed for divorce and a restraining order against her. In a poignant ceremony just months before the end, Hopper's wild career and larger-than-life persona were honoured with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
And this means so much to me, and thank you very much, everyone.
Seeing the frail actor surrounded by friends, family and fans would have been heart-rending, especially so close to the theatre where he once frolicked with Natalie Wood all those years ago. As unhinged as he was, Hopper still has an impressive oeuvre of more than 100 films. Although he died in May 2010, his complex legacy still lingers behind. In particular, Hopper never reconciled with his friend Peter Fonda after Easy Rider. The two had clashed constantly on the set, and after its release, Hopper even tried to siphon away Fonda's residual profits from the film. And that's where another example of Hopper's extreme vengeance comes in. It sounds too dramatic to be true, but in his final days, Hopper went so far as to make sure that Peter Fonda wouldn't even attend his funeral. Loyal to the end, a determined if estranged Fonda went anyway, only for Hopper's family to turn him away. It really was mind-boggling how Hopper could still stir up trouble even from beyond the grave. Amid his bitter divorce, he also banned his wife Victoria from his funeral. Nonetheless, he wanted their daughter Galen there. Well, trading blow for blow, Victoria allegedly kept Galen from going, using her as a pawn in the posthumous battle. At the height of his dysfunction directly after Easy Rider, Hopper was reportedly at an executive meeting when he happened to see a bunch of powder in a gold dish. Being who he was, Hopper wasted no time sniffing the stuff up, only to learn the hideous truth. A horrified employee revealed that Hopper had just snorted the ashes of an executive's late wife. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos.